Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today we are celebrating Holo Taco's 4-year anniversary with the new and limited edition retro collection. So this collection features 5 polishes in a brand new scattered holographic jelly formula. And if you know me, you know I love this formula, especially in the summertime. So I am so excited for these. I will be showing a closer look at the collection box and the new bag launching alongside it. But I do want to give a big thank you to Holo Taco for sponsoring today's video. I'm obviously super excited to be partnering with them today to show off these new shades. So let's just get into it. So here is a close-up of the limited edition retro on-the-go bag. It comes in matching colors to the collection, well, minus the purple and orange, but I am still so obsessed with this. It is just so bright, so in your face. I love this. And here is a closer look at the actual collection box. So it's a VHS cassette themed collector's box. I cannot get over this packaging. It is just absolutely incredible, so perfect for the theme. The outside has the super bright neon kind of colorway, and it acts as the sleeve for the actual collection box, which is in that VHS design. I just cannot get over this packaging. I am so obsessed with it. They just completely nailed the retro theme. I'm convinced this cannot be outdone. So yeah, here's a quick look at the outside. Pretty simple. There's just the pop of pink on the sides, but when you open it up, there is that pop of color. And oh my God, I am just so obsessed with this. I love this bright pink with the combination of that highlighter yellow. It is just so bright, so sparkly, so 90s. I'm going to be using Holo Taco's smoothing base under all of my swatches today. This one is their milky kind of base coat, so it fills in any ridges that you might have and provides a smooth, even surface. And it has a slight milky color, but not enough to blur your nail line. The first shade we have is Be Kind Rewind, and this one is described as a bright blue jelly polish with scattered holographic sparkle. So I absolutely love this one. I love these blues in the summertime, so this one is definitely a favorite from this collection. Formula-wise, this definitely has a very jelly finish. On the first coat, you can see straight through to my nail line, and it's pretty even coverage for the most part. There might be some spots that are a little bit lighter than others. But on the second coat, it does build up and provide a little bit more coverage, but it still maintains that very squishy, jelly kind of look. So you still see a decent amount of nail line, especially if your nails are longer like mine. I think if you have shorter nails and don't really have that much free edge, you could get away with 2 coats. I actually love how this looks in 2 coats, but I did end up doing a 3rd coat just to show you how that builds up. Obviously, these are not meant to be opaque because they are jelly polishes, so there is always going to be that element of squishiness where you can kind of see through to it, but I do think it gives really great coverage on 3 coats where your nail line is really covered up. The base builds up to be almost like a crelly kind of base, and there's just a ton of that holographic sparkle. So here it is built up in 1, 2, and 3 coats in direct sunlight, so you get a better idea of how squishy these shades actually are. Again, it looks really full coverage on 3 coats, but I still really like it in 2. Next in the collection, we have Life in Plastic, and this one is a bright pink jelly polish with scattered holographic sparkle. Obviously, I was the most excited for this one because I am just such a sucker for sparkly, hot pink jelly nails in the summertime, so this was my #1 favorite. This one had really great coverage on the first coat where I found it to be a lot more opaque than Be Kind Rewind, for example, so this built up really nice in just 2 coats alone. Again, it's not exactly fully opaque. This is a jelly. You still see a little bit of nail line, but I love that squishiness to it. It is just so bright and juicy. So I just did 2 coats here, but I still am showing 1, 2, and 3 coats in the sun. So yeah, you can see on 3 coats, it definitely gives more coverage, but you still see that little hint of nail line. I obviously love how it looks built up in 3 coats, but this is another one that I would be okay with wearing 2 coats. Next up, we have High Def, and this one is described as a bright yellow jelly polish with a scattered holographic sparkle. So this yellow is definitely like one of those neon highlighter kind of yellow shades. So I feel like it's not really a true yellow. It's borderline chartreuse. There's just like that touch of green to it. But either way, since this one is the lightest color in the collection, it has the sheerest formula. So it's really sheer and thin on the first coat, but it gave pretty decent coverage, I'll say. It wasn't quite even, and even after 2 coats, I feel like I still had some light spots or just kind of patchiness here and there. So for this one, I personally would wear this in 3 coats because I think it just evens out a lot better. I also try to do a little bit of a thicker 3rd coat too, just to not pull away any of the polish underneath. So you do have to be a little bit careful with your application just to get the most even coverage. But yeah, on 3 coats, this still has a very squishy feel to it. So it doesn't build up to be as opaque as Life in Plastic, for example. And since this is such a light shade, I feel like it's a little less forgiving than some of the other colors. So on 3 coats, you see a decent amount of nail line and some patchiness. Up next, we have Anti-Hero, and this is a bright purple jelly polish with that same scattered holographic sparkle. So I really enjoyed how vibrant and juicy this shade is. Normally, I'm more of a fan of blue or cooler leaning purple shades, and I don't really gravitate towards these warmer, almost like magenta leaning purples, but there is something so satisfying about this shade, especially in the summer. So formula-wise, this one had pretty nice coverage on the first coat. I wouldn't say it was totally even, so I wouldn't really feel comfortable wearing it in 1 coat, but it does build up really nicely in 2. So I feel like this one had really great coverage, very similar to Life in Plastic, where it almost has a crelly kind of look to it, but it still maintains that squishy jelly feel, which is definitely a lot more obvious in direct sunlight because you could see more of your nail line. So if you do want fuller coverage, you can do a 3rd coat, and it does deepen the color a little bit, so it's gorgeous either way. And rounding out the collection, we have Box Office Bomb, and this one is a bright orange jelly polish with that same scattered holographic sparkle. So this one was actually kind of a surprise favorite for me. I was really impressed with the formula on this one. I just figured because it was a lighter shade, it would be kind of similar to High Def, for example, but it gave me really great coverage on the first coat alone. So it was a lot more similar to Life in Plastic and Anti-Hero. I think if you're careful with your application, you could get away with this one in 1 coat. I personally found this one to just have the most self-leveling formula out of all of them, where you could just wear this in 1, 2, or 3 coats. As you'll see in a minute, I feel like it just looked good either way. But yeah, here I just stopped at 2 coats because it does build up really nicely. It again has that almost crelly kind of look to it, but you still see a hint of nail line. You might see even less if your nails are shorter. So I think a lot of people can get away with 2 coats, but it obviously depends on your preference because some people just hate seeing any kind of nail line. So yeah, here it is in 1, 2, and 3 coats in direct sunlight, and I love this one. And here is the full collection all together. I just love this color palette. I think it is so bright, so fun, and perfect for summer. Now moving on to comparisons, we obviously are starting with Be Kind Rewind and looking at it next to Never Tied Down from the Vacation collection. These definitely have very similar vibes, but very different formulas. So Never Tied Down does kind of have that jelly base, but is just so packed with these shimmers and crushed holo and gold flakies. So it ends up looking a lot more opaque. I actually have 1 coat of it on that side, while I have 2 coats of Be Kind Rewind, which again only has that delicate holographic sparkle, so it's a little bit more simple in terms of its finish. So even though these are totally different finishes, I figured I could show these new jellies next to some of the linear holographics just for some color comparisons. So here is Be Kind Rewind next to Hydropower. They're kind of similar when it comes to the shade of blue, but again, they just have wildly different formulas where Hydropower is just a lot more opaque, so it kind of looks a little bit darker in that sense, and it has a stronger linear holographic effect. Next, for Life in Plastic, we obviously have to see this next to Private Villa, which is the jelly polish from the Vacation collection. But as you can see, they are wildly different shades and again, different formulas as well, where even though Private Villa is a jelly, there's also these pink reflective glitters and some gold shimmer or like micro flakies in there. So there's just a lot more going on than the more simple scattered holo that's in Life in Plastic. And obviously, they're also very different color-wise. Private Villa looks red. Then for the linear holographic, I'm showing it next to Hotwire Pink, which is definitely a lot closer in color than at least Private Villa was, but it's still not quite a dupe or anything. I mean, obviously because they're totally different formulas again, but just color-wise. Hotwire Pink, I would say, is darker and then even a little bit cooler toned, but it does have a bright hot pink kind of shimmer. So in certain angles, these might be similar. Next, for High Def, I only have Full Charge to compare it to because it's the only other kind of lime yellow leaning green that I have from Holo Taco. But yeah, obviously Full Charge is an actual true green while High Def is green leaning, but Full Charge does have this yellow golden shimmer to it, so in certain angles I can see some people getting a similar vibe maybe. But yeah, High Def is definitely a lot lighter but still very green for being a yellow. So since I said Antihero is kind of magenta leaning, I figured I should show it next to Magenta Jelly, which is the linear holographic formula. Obviously, these aren't dupes by any means, but it's the closest from the linear holos to Antihero. It still is a lot warmer though, and more of that true magenta shade, while Antihero is definitely very purple. But like the other linear holographics, Magenta Jelly does have this shimmer that kind of matches the color purple in Antihero, so I feel like in certain angles, these could look similar. And lastly, for Box Office Bomb, I had to show this next to Holo Taco's Orange Drink, which is the orange linear holographic. So these two are super different shades of orange. I was actually pretty surprised. I thought they were going to be a little bit more similar, but seeing them side by side, I feel like Orange Drink is, well, obviously darker, but it almost has this amber or like brown kind of tone to it. It's just not as bright and juicy as Box Office Bomb, so I really love that shade. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons for Holo Taco's 4th anniversary retro collection. So like I mentioned in the intro, this collection and the new retro on the go bag are limited edition, so I will have Holo Taco's website linked down below if you want to pick them up. But I'm so excited to hear what you all think of this new jelly formula, or even just what you think of this theme, because I cannot get over how fun the packaging is. They really nailed it with this VHS cassette design. It is just so amazing. As far as my thoughts go, I am obviously a huge fan because I love bright, sparkly jellies in the summertime. And I think it's really exciting to see Holo Taco release this new finish. I know that these are limited edition, so they aren't gonna be around forever, but I definitely hope that they will consider bringing back this finish, especially next summer. Formula-wise, I do think that these are really great in general. I think that they build up really nicely, and they're a little bit more on that crelly leaning side, so they are pretty versatile because you can wear them on 2 coats for that classic squishy jelly kind of look, or build them up to be a little bit more full coverage in 3 coats. I do have a few more notes regarding the formula now that I got to swatch these a couple of times. I'm not sure if these are supposed to be fast drying, but they kind of felt that way, and so I think it would be easier to work with them a lot faster. So if you are somebody who kind of paints slow, you might find that these are a little difficult to work with. And I also think that in case they are fast drying, it's just easier to work with slightly thicker coats because the thinner coats seem to pull away at some of the polish underneath, and that would kind of cause that patchiness or unevenness. Overall, I do think these are pretty easy to work with and pretty beginner friendly, but maybe I would say the most troublesome would be high def just because it is the lightest shade. So maybe for that, I would recommend using a blurring base coat or just a milky sheer just to kind of help with any unevenness that you might get. My only gripe color-wise is actually with the pink. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love it. I think it's beautiful, but I just find that it's not exactly as bright as some of the sneak peeks that we've gotten. I think the pink in those clips are a little brighter and almost like a neon, kind of more similar to the pink on the On The Go bag. But this pink is a little bit deeper. Like, it's still bright, but it's more of like a medium kind of hot pink. I still really do like these, and I can't wait to use them in some jelly gradient nail art. But yeah, big thank you again to Holo Taco for partnering with me for today's video. Let me know how you'll be celebrating their anniversary, or just leave me any thoughts that you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.